So, a lot of us give up our power all the time in ways we're not even aware of. And in so doing, we make it harder to meet our needs and we suffer a lot more than we might otherwise. For one very specific reason, we equate a strategy we use to meet our needs with the need itself. A need is only ever a state of being, either emotional, physiological, psychological. For example, if we're too cold and we need to be warmer, we could meet that need with a jacket or a heater or a campfire or going for a run or drinking some tea or someone snuggling us. Yay. But we don't actually need any of those things. In that moment, we need warmth. So many of us all the time think that we need one specific thing, and then we feel horrible if that one specific thing doesn't happen. We start pursuing this one strategy to meet our needs to our own detriment, regardless of whether or not it's even meeting our needs. Now, why do we make this mistake? Because the mind wants to feel safe. When we can think of a path to getting our needs met, that tells our minds that there is a path, and it makes our minds feel safer because it thinks that it's more likely that our needs will get met. For the most part, this is an extremely useful thing. We can think of where we want to go, how we want to feel, what we want to get to, and come up with a strategy of getting there. The problems start when we stop noticing that the path we're using to meet our needs is just a path. So that if the path is blocked, or if we can't have that path right now, or if that path doesn't actually meet our needs, we don't notice that there might be another path to getting our needs met, and we don't even notice what our needs actually are. We start to believe that if we don't have that thing, if we can't take that path, if we can't use that strategy, then our need will never be met. One of the main reasons we get stuck on certain paths is that we usually have multiple needs at a given time. And when this happens, we may want a certain path to be how our needs get met because it's also meeting another need. A lot of times we think we need the strategy to be our idea because doing that meets our need for empowerment. A lot of times we think we need to know what the strategy is ahead of time because doing that meets our need for safety. Other times there might be something in our lives that's meeting our needs and we care about that thing too. This is most often the case when our needs are being met through our relationships with other people. So let's say there's someone in my life who's meeting my needs for security, self-esteem, and connection. But then that relationship changes or something changes and I don't get those needs met through that relationship anymore. What I can do is find other methods of meeting my needs, but that doesn't mean I have to give up all acquaintance with that person. I can let the relationship change form to meet other needs. The more you open yourself to accepting many different options of getting your needs met, the more likely it is your needs will get met. The more options you have to get your needs met, the easier your needs are to meet. So in order to start embodying this understanding, you have to start with understanding your needs. The first way of understanding your needs is to recognize what state you're currently in that feels unpleasant and figure out what the opposite of that is. So if you are too cold, you need warmth. If you are too isolated, you need connection. If you are too invalidated, you need validation. If you are too rejected, you need acceptance. The second method, especially if you have multiple needs at once, is to keep asking yourself why you want that thing. Why do I need to do it that way? Why? Keep answering that question to yourself until you get to a state of being you're trying to reach. A lot of us like to feel like we have control over other people or our environment in general because having that control makes us feel safe. We think that enforcing certain strategies to meet needs on others or on our environment will make it more likely that our needs will get met, regardless of whether or not those strategies are meeting other people's needs. And a lot of times, those strategies aren't meeting other people's needs. Their needs are going unmet, and they're suffering as a result. What we have when we try to dominate other people is not any increased ability to get our needs met. All it is an ability to force a certain strategy for meeting needs onto other people. Paradoxically, dominating our environment does not actually make it easier to meet our needs. It makes it harder because there could well be other strategies out there that are faster, simpler, more efficient, better, more graceful, more elegant, whatever, to getting our needs met that we haven't thought of. But because we are dominating the environment, we're not listening to other people's ideas of how to get our needs met. Even if the strategy we've come up with to meet our needs that we're enforcing on others is actually the best way to get our needs met, dominating our environment still makes us less safe. The more options we all have to meet our needs, the better able we all are to meet our needs without having to hurt anybody else to get our needs met. The less cause we have to hurt one another, the safer we all are from harm. That means even if you are getting your needs met, if the strategy you've chosen to do that leads to someone else not getting their needs met, then you've increased the reason people have to harm one another. If everyone's needs get met, that's the safest we can all possibly be. When we make the error of focusing on a strategy to meet a need as though it's the need itself, we create these artificial conflicts that we don't actually need to have. We think we have competing needs. We think our needs are in conflict, when what's actually in conflict is the strategies or tools we want to use to meet our needs. Now, the way you want to meet your needs and the way I want to meet my needs might be in direct conflict. But if we understand what we actually need, we can start getting creative about other paths to get there. Rather than being in a conflict over who's getting their needs met and who isn't, we're in a collaboration towards finding a solution that leads to everyone getting their needs met. Now, as we all know, most people don't live according to this. Most of us don't, for the vast majority of our lives, even notice that this is the case. So starting to live like this, if that's what you want to do, is going to take some time. Please don't expect yourself to change everything overnight. It won't happen. But if you want to start embodying this, there's a few places you can begin. I think I've said a few times now that just because this is simple doesn't mean it's easy. So my first tip is to start by making it as easy on yourself as possible. What that means will kind of depend on the person. Maybe that means starting with an area of your life that isn't really that important to you, letting yourself find other strategies to meet your needs there. For other people, the easiest thing to start with might be something that's the most obvious, that they have the most support around them to stop doing. So say like a certain strategy of meeting your needs that's really harmful to your body, like smoking cigarettes. That was one I personally kind of started with. I would strongly advise you not to try to do this with everything in your life at once. You probably won't succeed, and you'll probably just suffer a lot more in the process as a result. Pick something, just one thing, and start there. My second piece of advice would be to commit and prioritize it. That may mean deprioritizing other aspects of your life for a while. I'll let you decide what matters most to you. There are no wrong answers. This is a pretty deep shift in thinking. That means you might have to remind yourself of it over and over and over again. Write it on your mirror. Make it your phone background. Set little reminders to yourself throughout the day. A need is only ever a state of being. Am I equating a strategy I'm using to meet my needs with the need itself? What do I actually need? Say it over and over and over again. Tell your friends and family about it. There might be certain friends and family you have to avoid for a while you're breaking your attachment to certain strategies. It's like quitting an addiction. It kind of is quitting an addiction. My third piece of advice is the one you don't want to hear, and that's this. Embrace discomfort. You are going to feel your craving for the certain strategy you use to meet your needs. Even if that strategy isn't physically addictive, you are still going to feel that craving, and you are going to want to go act on it. Don't. Just sit there. And you're going to think about it, and you're going to be really, really, really want it, and you're going to say, oh my God, my whole body feels like I need to go do that thing, and you just sit there. That's how it goes. The more you can learn to embrace discomfort rather than reactively running away from it by giving into your craving, the faster this is going to go. The really great thing about that kind of discomfort from not acting on a craving, it doesn't last that long. It comes back again and again and again for a while. Even that cycle doesn't last forever. The less you run from it, the faster it will go. The more you've sat with your discomfort, the easier it gets to sit with your discomfort. This isn't easy. If it were easy, all of us would have done it by now. But we can start. Finally, practice. This is a practice. It takes time and repetition. We're talking about a really, really deep shift in our thinking. It isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to sink in, trial and error, falling off the path and getting back on, making a mistake, understanding something new from it, learning from it, and trying again, over and over and over again. It's a practice. This is simple, but it's not easy. With time and repetition, it does get easier. One of the most important things to understand about all of this is that there is no such thing as an incorrect need. All needs are valid. Everything you need, you are fully allowed to need. You are fully allowed to get that need met. Your needs are valid. Your suffering is not your fault. Fault doesn't have anything to do with any of this. There are no incorrect needs. There are only strategies to meet needs that create more or less suffering.